You were primarily doing just the real estate investment side. Like when you're cold calling, you're trying to accumulate properties at that time?
Yeah,
or what
I
were
would
you
say
doing?
a bulk of that had to do when I was in commercial,
Okay.
where you had a vacant space. And so you'd think about, okay, who would be the ideal tenant in this vacant space?
Yep.
And so you'd make a list of people that you think would be prospects, and then you'd call them. And, you know,
Gotcha.
a lot, and get into commercial, a lot of the prospects you have really weren't even looking for space. But, you know, there may be in a poor location or a crappy building, or there's something about their office business that they could improve their business by a different location. And a couple of the key things is someone has a really poorly laid out office, but it was cheap. You could redesign an office that's maybe half the square footage in a much better location, much better building for about the same monthly cost. You know, those were kind of fun when you're able to do that.
Sure.
Or I remember I had one engineering office that they were downtown and they didn't have any parking. And so they were parking on the street and moving their cars every couple hours so they didn't get a ticket. And I was watching this, and an employee would get up to go move their car. Well, they'd talk to people through the office, talk to people back, you know, take them 20 minutes to do that. And so I kind of challenged the owner to kind of think about that. And when he figured that out, he could afford a much better office space in a great location that had parking. So people could come, go to work, focus on their work all day and not worry about, oh, I see the little ticket gal kind of driving down the street. So it's really, you know, I would say that's probably been, if, you know, the success I've had in commercial real estate is trying to really understand the business beyond just how many square feet do you have, what do you want, but really how can that business grow? And then the opposite is true. Some of the worst things is you have a small business that's pretty successful, or they have a good run one year, and then they want to be in the top floor of a bank building. And then you have to ask them, you know, how will this impact your business? Because it's nicer space, but if it's not going to help your business grow, you know, you shouldn't do it. And so sometimes people get in space they can't really afford, that's not helping them grow their business. And then, you know, a couple of years they're in really tough financial situations. So,
sure.
You know,
do you remember like your first big break, like your first project that really did well for you, that kind of opened the door and opened the avenues for you to actually get the ball rolling?
Oh, man, that was probably a long time ago.
Sure.
But I think my, you know, the way I started out, quite frankly, was I was a student at NDSU. I was finishing up my senior year, and there was a guy that came in and gave a 1 hour kind of talk or presentation. And in Ag Econ, they tried to get people that were former Ag Econ grads to come back and talk about different businesses. So it's not just totally ag related. And he was buying a house, and he was going to convert it to, you know, a couple of apartments.
Sure.
And so I called him up afterwards, and you know, it's kind of a funny story, but it was like, I said, hey, Jim, I'll help you do that. You don't have to pay me. I just would like to learn that business. And so he said, well, do you know anything about plumbing? I said, no. Do you know anything about electrical? I said, no. And I'm feeling kind of bad, right? And I'd worked as a carpenter and that kind of stuff. So I know some carpentry. And he kind of smiled and he goes, well, do you have your own tools? And I said, no. So it was kind of like, well, I don't do that either. So let's just have coffee. Sure. And then he was starting a commercial focused multifamily brokerage, and they needed someone to manage. And so my first job was president of a company of 50 units.
Wow.
So not a big company, not a big operation.
Right.
And likewise, I knew nothing about managing property. So I tried to gather as much knowledge as I could, and kind of learned, I call it by falling forward. So it's not how many times you fail, it's getting back up and trying to assess, okay, what did I learn? And so that was my first real estate deal.
Sure.
Was I had a friend that had this duplex that wasn't going very well. So I ended up buying it from him for $30,000 with $50 down on the contract for deed because, couldn't afford it, right? Couldn't afford, bank wouldn't finance me. And so that was one of those projects that kind of got me into it. And today knowing what I knew after that whole project, I probably wouldn't have done it. But once you're in it, you just have to, have the perseverance and grit to make sure it's full, make sure things are taken care of. And so that was kind of, being thrown in the fire right away.
Was it hard to imagine starting at a $30,000 duplex? Did you ever think at that point that you would be what you are today?
Oh, that was a big deal for me. That was huge, man.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. And, again, in life, I think we, a lot of times, I don't know how to say this, but we think about where we want to be. And I think it's important to always keep your mind open because that tends to grow and change. And, in my career, I'm probably good and bad. I've gone many different directions and taken on many different things. But, probably from real estate, you fix problems, right? And so I think in politics, politics is a lot like real estate. You have an issue you're trying to solve. Takes a lot of work up front. A lot of people are in those solutions. And then at the end of it, something little can trip it up. You don't get the votes or someone's upset and this doesn't happen.
Sure.
Same like trying to get something closed, right?
What was it that drew you to politics then when you weren't in it before?
Well, again, it's someone else.
Yeah.
I had a buddy in college and he was in charge of recruiting legislative candidates for the Fargo area.
Sure.
And there was an opening. And so he asked me to do that. And I'm like, no, I'm busy. I can't do it. And he kept working on me and he was a good salesman. And
Yeah.
by the time he got done with me, I was just convinced that the state of North Dakota couldn't continue without me not being in the legislature.
So he got you good.
Yeah, he got me good. Yeah. So, I was pretty young, 24 at the time when I made that decision. And that was just a tremendous experience here in North Dakota.
Wow, that's awesome.
Because so when you had started at 24, that was just like the local legislative, or that was statewide already?
That was state.
That was state. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you eventually became the actual House representative for North Dakota.
Right. So that was kind of, I was in the state legislature for 26 years and I'd been, the Speaker of the House, Majority Leader, been really involved in a lot of things. And, I've obviously learned a tremendous amount about people and life and that. And then I stepped out, I retired, and then I started paying attention to DC and maybe that old Paul Overby in my head was like, okay, they need you to fix this. It was like, they're spending more money than they're taking in. That doesn't last, doesn't make sense. So I got all fired up and ran for Congress and so serving, which again was another just unbelievable honor, but also learning experience. It was a lot of fun.
Did you make a lot of connections when you were the House rep of North? Like we were talking, we had Drew Wrigley on a couple months ago, and he was talking about the different people that he got to meet, the tables he got to sit at. Was there any like really awesome person in Congress that maybe you met from another state or at the national level that really just was pretty cool?
Yeah, there are just so many interesting people. We came in as freshmen, and then we became the majority. So it was really kind of a transformational 2010 election. And you just meet so many world leaders, obviously presidents, and get to go to the White House. And, there's just a lot of, it's kind of one of the fascinating things is it's like you're learning the news really before the public hears the news. Because you're kind of on the inside, not that anyone couldn't be there watching it, but when big decisions are being made, you're kind of late at night working out those agreements, trying to get people on board. So, that was one of my roles. I was on the minority or the majority leaders whip team. So that means in politics, if there's an issue, you want to kind of get everyone, find out where they are, if they're going to support it or not, or how you change it. Excuse me.
Sure, you're good.
No,
Should have shut that off.
No, you're just fine.
We figure you got a little bit more going on than we do.
No. Well, I mean, I'm a big believer in being present too. I mean, I think I'm trying to get a lot better in that, but in that area, because it's like when you're with someone, you need to be with someone. And I think this day and the age, there's so many interruptions, and it's life's too complicated. You got to keep it calm, keep it simple. And when you're with someone, you need to be with someone.
Oh, we appreciate that. Yeah, Maggie said you have a big event going on, something after this. So we're like, hey, it's a Friday. He's got some fun stuff going on.
NDSU event, I imagine?
Yeah, actually, it's an exciting thing. So they're just starting an honors college at NDSU. And so that's really students that are, academically at the very, very top. And they have kind of a special program. So there's 30 honor students that are selected for next fall. And so they kind of have a special programming for them. I mean, they're integrated in the university, but they're going to kind of house in the same area and have a place where they can interact in the same area.
Cool. So what drew you to the your new position at NDSU?
Well, that's an interesting question. I've had people have asked me that, and I like President Cook and knew him. I consider him a friend. And when he took the job in Iowa, it was like right away I was concerned, because anytime you have a leader, especially of an organization like NDSU, and they leave, it's like, okay, we got a lot of good momentum going, but if that leader leaves, then there's a tendency to revert backwards.
Sure.
And so I was like, we have to have someone that's going to keep that momentum going. The other thing, there's probably three things. So it was that. The other thing is this is a big thing in the university is how they're funded. And so right now there's probably, in the last decade, there's never been a time where there's more momentum to change the funding formula. And so I was also concerned that without, a president or someone that really understood the political process, that NDSU might not be a part of the solution in that. And then the third was just, I thought, when we have a new president, you want them to get up to speed really, really quickly. And so again, as I was trying to recruit people to do this, it was like, well, why don't you do it? And I'm like, no, I can't. Well, you can't ask people to do things that you're not willing to do yourself. So I put my name in the hat. It was kind of interesting because one of the funny things is I'd never really done a resume, because we're in all these things, right. And so that was the hardest part about putting my name in, is I had to do a resume. So it took me like 3 days, Maggie's help, and put this resume together. And when I talked to my, buddies in the private sector, they kind of laugh. Oh yeah, Well, I went to NDSU and Cook introduced me to all the faculty. Mm-hmm. And so someone asked the same question. Well, how do you become an interim president? So I explained that, and then I kind of joked, the worst part of it was putting together a resume. And no one laughed. And I thought, did I say something wrong? And then afterwards, someone took me aside and they said, okay, Rick, everyone here on faculty, they have a very detailed, long resume, because that's how higher ed works. You want to know what you published, et cetera, et cetera. And so, that was kind of a different perspective.
Well, what a fun time to come in. With all the talk of the convention center, I've seen you've had takes on that, the football team moving up. How much of a decision maker do you think you've been in some of those big decisions?
Well, it's kind of interesting. Last week, someone came up to me and they said, I can't believe how many decisions you're making. Mm. And I'm like, I don't feel like I've made a lot of decisions, but I think that's a challenge in a government entity or even in higher ed, that a lot of the decisions tend to be avoided. And so, in the private sector, it's like, we don't have a meeting unless we have something to decide, right?
Sure.
And then we don't leave the meeting till we decide it and figure out what are the to-dos. And so, a lot of the issues that I faced were issues that, no one really got the players together and then, peeled it down to what is the issue. And then, a lot of these decisions are self-evident, but no one really wants to make them because they don't want to upset someone or something like that. Well, this has been a perfect role. I've never experienced this before. You jump into something, you're going to be there 4 months and then you're out. Yeah. And so part of me, it's like, well, I want to do things and I see things, I just jump into them and try and get decisions made. And so it's, so the Mountain West, obviously there were a lot of people that had worked on that for years. Yeah. And so I signed the contract, but I'm not so sure if they wanted me to sign it to agree with it or be on the liability to raise all the money that they need to raise to go to the Mountain West. But that was the first day. And it was really exciting for me, but I didn't realize how exciting it was for, all the other people and a lot of people that aren't directly involved in athletics. Faculty was excited, the staff was excited. And then as I studied it, what happens when a university moves up like that, it kind of raises everyone's game. And now we're in, there's 7 other land grants that we're going to be able to collaborate with. And I've encouraged our top leadership to find their peers in these other universities. And are there ways we can work together in research? Are there ways we can work together, collaborative in a lot of ways? And so, it's just been exciting. And enrollment, generally when campuses have gone up, enrollment increases.
Yeah.
So,
well, it seems like you enjoyed doing it. Was there a small part of you that maybe wanted to think about full-time, like doing it forever?
Well, I tell you what, I, certainly it's a tremendous honor. It was a lot of fun, but a lot of the things that I saw where it can be improved.
Sure.
I don't have the experience to know, well, how do you do that? And so I'm really excited about this new president, Marshall Stewart.
Yeah.
Marshall's got decades of experience in growing enrollment. One of the big things for me is how do we connect? Because NDSU is almost this little island in Fargo Moorhead. We all know where it's at, but it's there. And now if you have a challenge or, maybe you're a small company that has a problem in accounting or want to do some research or something like that, you kind of think, well, maybe NDSU would have something for me. You go on NDSU's campus, you'd probably knock on 10 different doors, kind of cold calling, trying to find someone that would be interested. And then maybe you do, or maybe you don't, and you drop it. And so where I think this is exciting for me is I think NDSU is going to go out and be knocking on businesses' doors. What do you need? What can we help you with? Do you have some research you want? Would you like an intern for something? Are there business things that our business school can help you with? And so I think that outreach is going to be kind of the new theme of NDSU. And I'm really excited about that.
Well, it's like you talked about, there may be some things that this new guy's bringing in that you didn't have, but vice versa. You were kind of an outsider. You came in for a short stint. You knew you were going to go.
Yep.
So if you made some people mad, on the deal, it didn't matter. But like you talked about, maybe you brought some stuff to them that, they weren't thinking about. So that's kind of fun.
No, that's I really haven't. I mean, I don't know, but I don't think I've gotten anyone mad at me because even though they don't agree or disagree with the decision I made, they're like, well, he's going to be gone.
Nice.
And then I had a guy come up to me and gave me a really nice compliment the other day. And nice. I was like, just joking around, you're just sucking up to me. And then he got this blank look on his face and he goes, why would I suck up to you? You're going to be gone. I thought, maybe, you get, true, you're getting people's true perspective on a lot of things.
So if you weren't already a big Bison football fan, are you a big fan now?
Oh, yeah,
now that
absolutely.
You've been a part of it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, it's, it'll be really exciting. And, again, from my perspective, it's like, our competition is going to be way different. Mm-hmm. And every game is going to be a tough game for us. But I think we're going to really succeed in this Mountain West.
I'm one of the weird outsiders, not being from Fargo, just hearing Bison win, all these years in a row. I kind of got to the point where I was kind of like, they're not even in the big leagues. So actually going up this year, I'm like, all right, I might get a Bison sweatshirt.
Well,
I think I'm ready.
Good, yeah. I can help you arrange that. Yeah. They're on sale this week at the bookstore. So.
I appreciate. Look at that.
Yeah.
It's got all the deals. Yeah, I graduated from there in 23. So I'm always trying to work on him, but he's just UND guy. I don't know. These UND guys are tough to sway.
Well, I found I shut this off. That's that's one thing that I think is that I've seen that's both good and bad. We want the competition, but I think our competition is not between NDSU and UND. Sure. Our really competition is in the region and the nation because that's where our graduates are going for jobs, and so we have to have it. Good-natured, but working together on a lot of ways, I think will help us. And so that's one of the things I've been, really trying to encourage Marshall to look at, and working with Andy Armacost at UND. I think he's really open to that. So, we've got 2 great sports teams. I mean, if you said who's our professional teams in North Dakota, probably UND hockey and NDSU football.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So now that you've been NDSU's president, your stint is coming up. Do you have any interest in like stepping back into local, state, regional politics, or are you kind of tapped out on all that?
No, that's a good question. So the Speaker of the House, when I was in Congress, say never. Never say what you won't do, and he said, and so that's kind of been my approach is, never say never to something like that. But I think what I look for are there issues out there that I'm really concerned about. Then I look for the leadership that can change those and do what I would have done. And if that leadership's there, I'm really trying to support and encourage that leadership. If it's not there, I'm trying to recruit leaders that will step in and do those things. But there might be a situation I'd get caught like interim president as I'm trying to recruit people to do it. But yeah, I mean, we're so fortunate in North Dakota, both in the state level and the local level, to have so many, good people trying to think about the future and set things up right and, make a lot of tough decisions.
Yeah, that's obviously a big hot topic with midterms coming up here, especially even in the Fargo region. Is there anything that you're really excited about with the candidates coming up? Any certain issues that you feel any way about?
Well, so I've kind of tried to stay out of politics while I'm the NDSU president.
Sure, that's fair.
But I think there's going to be this primary in Fargo is going to be a big primary. We've got a number of people running for mayor. We're going to have new commissioners, and so I know there's public forums and they're going to speak, and it's really encouraged people to engage in that. And it's always somewhat disappointing how low the turnout is. And so I've been really encouraging people to, make sure you vote, make sure you know the issues, and vote by mail, to get an absentee ballot. Yeah, because that's how change is made.
We have, that's funny you brought that up. We actually have Michelle, Denise, and Josh all coming on the podcast. Yep, in May. We're doing 3 days back to back to back.
Oh, good.
So we're super excited. We're going to get a chance to talk with them.
Watch this podcast, and you will get the lowdown on the local politics.
Right. Well, like you talked about, they do a lot of events, whether it's with the Interim, they have the debate coming up at the Fargo Theater, but we like to have a chance of tell us a little bit about your personal side.
Right.
We know the business side, we know the political front you have to put on, but it's we're not Valley News Live. Yeah. We're just a couple of guys. So we're super excited for that.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
I think one interesting issue just for people to watch is this school lunch issue. And so I started out with some people here in Fargo wanting to provide free school lunch for all K-12 or pre-kindergarten through 12 people. And, we always had a program where based on need, you'd have a free lunch, but then it's kind of a little embarrassing and, who gets a free lunch or not. And so that issue came up during a special session in January, and it failed by just a few votes. So then they got initiated measure, which is a cool thing about North Dakota. North Dakota is one of, I think, 13 states where you can do initiated measures or referrals. So anything the legislature passes, you can refer to a vote of the people. Or if you have an idea that you want to become law, you can go out, get signatures, and put on the ballot. Can't do that in Minnesota. So it's kind of like a safeguard for the people. And so this measure became an initiated measure. And I think the requirement, I'm not exactly right on this, but I think you need 24,000 signatures to put it on the ballot. And they came in with 54,000 signatures. Wow. So I think there's just a lot of momentum. It'll be interesting to see, that dynamic that our legislature voted this way 6 months ago, and how did the people of North Dakota vote, in June.
Yeah, the biggest one I've been looking at, the convention center, and I know that's, a commissioner thing too as well. Have you gotten a chance to look into those different presentations that have been out? Do you have any favorites? Or I think there's probably not a bad one, honestly.
Well, I am involved with the Dome because it's, and I've got a lot of thoughts on that whole thing. I mean, kind of step back and I say, you know, as a real estate guy, I think the way this evolved, you know, was a little bit backwards from a real estate perspective. I mean, it passed, you know, a $0.25 vote on lodging from Fargo. And so that generated, you could bond $45 million for that. And so then what the committee did is they said, okay, any developer, come to us with your plan. And so they had like 10 different developers that went and found a contractor, went and found an architect. And so like 10 different contractors, 10 different architects, 10 different locations. And then they just kind of started narrowing it down. And so now we're left with 4. Downtown Fargo, Bruhala, by Shields, and then the convention or the Dome Convention Center. And what I think should have been done in retrospect now is the city should have said, okay, we have this $45 million potential for a convention center. Let's hire the best firm in the country to come and survey Fargo, Moorhead, and find out what should our convention center be? How big should it be? Who's it going to serve? Who's our competition? What do we need to do to beat our competition to get convention centers? And then they also should have said, when they had those specs and dimensions or whatever, what will it cost? And, you know, I think had they done that, that cost would have come back and said it's $65 million. So that, I mean, that's kind of, there's a gap in all these proposals of probably $10 to $20 million in what's really needed to do what I think people envision for a convention center and where we're at. And then second of all, you know, that survey would have said, here's the best location to put a convention center. You know, maybe you put it by West Acres or, you know, interstate visibility or downtown or wherever. And so then what you could have done as a developer, you'd say, okay, let me find the best location first. So you find the location, you buy the location, or secure it. Then you say, okay, let's find the best convention center architect. Let's find the best convention center contractor, you know, narrow that down. And then, you know, you do the program or do the convention center. So again, it's kind of was a little bit maybe too fast. And so I think where it's at right now is they'll either make a decision on one of these 4, but there's not a timetable on this. And so if they're not able to feel comfortable with everything, I'd encourage them to take a step back and say, okay, let's maybe start over and look at this a little closer. And, you know, maybe there's more money that needs to come in. Maybe, you know, Fargo, West Fargo participate, both of them in the lodging tax or something like that. But having said that, we are where we are right now. And, you know, NDSU owns the land under the dome. And so we lease the land under the dome to the dome. And the dome is owned by the city. Now, all the debt's gone on the dome, but they've built up a $47 million reserve. And that reserve primarily was for improvements to the dome. And so I kind of stepped into this thing, and the proposal originally took like $25-30 million out of the reserve to build the convention center. Well, I'm like, in my opinion, that's not what that money was for. And so my position was, you know, let's use the tax revenue for a convention center for the convention center, and let's use the reserve in the dome to improve the dome. Yeah. Because of the Mountain West, that's part of it, but just really improve the customer experience. And, you know, there haven't been a lot of improvements there for the last 20 years. And, you know, I look at concessions, I look at the restrooms, I look at those things, and, you know, we need to make the customer experience better, whether it's USA Wrestling or, you know, all that. So I kind of got in a little bit of trouble because people were like, oh, don't you like the dome? Don't you want the dome? I go, no, but, you know, we should be able to accomplish both of those things. Sure. Improvements to the dome and a convention center. And so that's kind of where we're at. The people that are working, I would say, with me on the dome and the convention center are trying to integrate the benefits of the dome and the convention center together. Because, you know, I mean, we have a lot of space in the dome that can be used for convention center, meeting rooms, and that kind of stuff, rather than just looking at it as like a bolt-on convention center.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think especially with the Mountain West, I think it's pretty obvious that the dome needs to be improved. I mean, I think most people could agree on that.
But all these things take money, right?
Yeah.
So So I think that's, from my perspective, I think let's try and do some, I don't want to say minor, but try and do some improvements now.
Sure.
The Dome. Convention Center would be a great partner there, and a hotel would be a great partner there.
Sure.
And then kind of see how the Mountain West goes. If there's enthusiasm that builds and we're successful in that, we'll fill up the Dome. 5-6 years ago, we may need another facility to play football in. So
I think so.
Well, the real question is when you step down as interim president, do you still get to use the president's suite to watch the games?
No. Wow. I mean, that was the worst thing about it, right?
Yeah. I mean,
I'm like, why couldn't I be interim president during fall season at the Dome? But
that's too good.
Yeah.
I mean, you obviously have your hands in, projects like that, other projects in town. We saw Great States is building some of the Quick Trips, which we love.
Oh, yeah.
We think that is the coolest thing. How in the world did you get tied in with Quick Trip?
Well, I mean, that's a great story. I mean, it's like, Quick Trip is, I think they're out of Wisconsin. They've built a lot of stores. They've got a lot of great relationships with contractors. Well, the president of our construction company, Michael Casper, actually went out and met with them in Wisconsin. So I think he impressed them that they knew he really wanted the business, but also when they learned more about him and his culture and what they're doing, they built 3 of the Quick Trips, and then now they're using them for more. So, wow. I mean, again, I think it's interesting, this day of phones and Zoom and Teams and that kind of stuff. It's a lot easier not to do that, but I think physically, especially early on in business relations, it's important to be face-to-face with your potential client.
I like that. When they flew out there and you guys have done 3, did they give an idea of we want to take over Fargo? Did they say how many they want to do? That's like a super hot question right now.
Wow, yeah. It was interesting because for a couple of years ahead of time, they were acquiring sites. And the way these convenience stores work is it's kind of like to get good food and fresh food, they need to be able to make a route of it so that trucks can go and serve all these together. So they can't really do one Quick Trip out, 200 miles away from all the other Quick Trips. So I think they're, I don't have the inside of Quick Trip, but they made a huge commitment to Fargo.
Wow.
And I think we'll see them continue to grow. And, once they have, I think logistically, once they have enough Quick Trips where a full truck can come and be empty, or you do their logistics, they may say, okay, that's how many we need. But
we're always laughing. We're like, we know what makes money in this town. There's always new banks, there's always new car washes, and there's new gas stations.
Yeah.
But you know why that is? The reason is because we're growing.
Yeah.
Because we've got a core fundamental pro-business mentality here. And I think we're seeing I think we have $9 billion companies here in Fargo. And we're at 260,000 people. When I started decades ago, we're probably 100,000 people. And in real estate, it was always, when I was young, I was always looking at these other markets. Like, I remember looking at Las Vegas, and it's going up 10% a year. And you're like, what am I doing here in Fargo? I should be there. But then over the course of my time, I also saw Las Vegas go down by 10, 15% a year. And that's the beauty of this market we have in Fargo. I mean, you're not going to have tremendous appreciation, but if you take care of your properties, you're going to have that steady, slow growth. And it's because we have growing employment here.
Yeah. Do you do business elsewhere outside of the state? Are you guys regional as well?
Yeah, we're focused in North Dakota, obviously, Minnesota, South Dakota, and Montana are kind of the main 4 states we're in.
Would you say, is there any next hot location that you guys have kind of been scouting, had your eye on, like to do something at, or maybe even do more of?
Yeah, we spend a lot of time on research, and really we look for markets where, again, our market is multifamily, right? So we look for markets that have a high occupancy, but also they're missing what I would call kind of a newer market rate apartment. Not the real high end, but that's something that's affordable for most people. But maybe you go to a market and they've got, real old apartments that don't have wash and dryer hookups, don't have 2 baths, that kind of stuff. or they may have really high-end apartments. So we look at that kind of core thing where, 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, washer and dryers in the unit, and then amenities depending on, what that market needs. So it's really trying to figure out what's missing in a market. And then we look for markets like Fargo. I mean, stable, long-term growth, a diversified economic base that, it's not like, something quits or Melrose shuts down. I mean, that's devastating to a small or to any town, but certainly a small town.
Yeah. Is Fargo on a stabilized path? I mean, I would say right now it is, but as someone like you with all your experience, is there in 10 years you could see an issue, or 15, 20 years?
All I can say is for the last 40 years, we've grown by 2 or 3% every single year.
Why do we do it so much better than other? Like, what is that reason?
Well, I think we're generally conservative, but I think agriculture plays a big base. That's something we don't really see in town in Fargo, but we've got the most valuable land probably in the world that's always produces a crop. Now, agriculture is like real estate and everything else. It goes up and down. You have this, but over the years I think that's been a really good base for us. I think now that then I think the energy industry. I mean, the energy industry has been great in Western North Dakota, but a lot of the companies that are out there are Fargo companies, or they're buying product and supplies through Fargo companies. So even though we don't see that directly, that's helping grow these companies in Fargo. And then healthcare. I mean, healthcare is really big, and I think that's kind of the other side of it is, we all kind of grew up outside of Fargo in small towns. What do your parents do when they retire? Well, a lot of them like to be close to their kids. And so I think keeping Fargo a place that people want to come when they retire will also continue to grow our population. So we've just got a lot of diversity. I mean, the biotech has been good. I mean, firms like Microsoft coming in here, 15, 20 years ago, and what they brought and the number of businesses that have spun off from that. I mean, they're not as strong today as they were, and I'm not sure what their long-term plans are, but we've got a really diverse economy. And you boil it all down, and we've got a lot of we're all a little bit the same, right? Yeah. I mean, we're hardworking, we want to learn, we want to improve, we want a great place to live. And so I think it's the culture here and the people that are working here are very similar, and that grows these businesses.
That's cool. You touched on the $9 billion businesses. We actually just had a video we did about that not too long ago.
Did I get that right? Is it 9?
Yeah, I think it was 9. So. Yeah. We put it on TikTok and it kind of blew up. There was a lot of people, but it's hard to imagine, sometimes we walk around, I'm like, man, how is there 9? The town's only, 250,000 or whatever it is, the metro, but hard to believe. I mean, that's a lot of big business that you talked about. And even we had, Shirley Hughes on, she's like the FM, and she had talked about even just the driving forces of large scale businesses, keeping the young community here and bringing the parents into town. And I think that's exactly literally my parents' plan. They're like, well, as soon as you start popping out kids, we're coming to Fargo or we're in Scottsdale, we'll go back and forth and we'll call it good.
Well, an interesting thing. So 20 years ago, I was on the Economic Development Board here in Fargo. I chaired the board, and one of the, we're trying to bring businesses in and recruit businesses. And they said one of the difficult things is you recruit a leader for a business and they have a spouse, whether you want, the husband or wife to lead your company, and they have a spouse that's really talented too. Well, if they come to Fargo and you only have one large company, what happens if they're there a year and don't like it? Then they have to pick up and pull. And I remember at the time they said, once you have a community or MSA of 250,000 people, then you're going to get more of those higher level executives moving here, because then you're going to have 10 big companies. And so if one company is not a fit for them, they don't have to pull their kids and their family and leave. They can find another job in the community. And so for me, I think the latest I heard, we're 260,000 people in our MSA. So I'm like, I've been waiting for 20, 30 years to hit this. And I just think that's going to really drive our continued growth.
Yeah, with you being in it, as long as you have, I feel like you've checked a lot of boxes off. I mean, even with this NDSU president deal, I mean, it's a huge honor. Do you see yourself working for much longer, or do you think, or at what point do you start winding it down?
I don't know. I just love it.
You're too young to retire.
Yeah. I just love it. Yeah, kind of a funny story is, so my partners in Great States were encouraging me to put my name in.
Yeah.
Which again, you're busy and you got all this stuff going on and you're not going to be available. And so that really meant a lot to me. And so I threw my name in, I get the job. And then it's like, the first month, no one really calls me. And I felt really kind of a little cocky. Oh, I built a good team. These guys can make decisions. They know what's going on. And then the second month, no one really called me. And then I'm like, do they even need me anymore? What's going on?
Yeah.
But so I guess it's been, and again, for me in North Dakota, legislature was like 4 months every other year. And so when I went into it, it's tough in real estate, because, you can't take on any new clients before you leave for 4 months. And then when you come back, it's not like you start making money right away.
Right.
It takes 3 to 6 months to get that. But I always tried to kind of reinvent myself when I came back from that 4-month break and think about, okay, how can I be more effective? How can I do more of the things I want? And how can I not take back on these things that I delegated that I'm not very good at?
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess I'm looking forward to being done and then really having that kind of self-reflection and see, okay, what is my role in work? How can I be impactful there? And, what else?
Yeah. You've been successful in real estate, obviously, but have you had the opportunity to get involved in other business ventures that maybe a little passion project or something you've always wanted to tap into, or a restaurant or whatever it may be? Do you have side projects that you're currently working on?
Well, let me back up once. Okay. So I've been successful in real estate, but at the same time, I've had tremendous failures in real estate.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that many of my peers that are, you'd say they're successful in business or financially now. A lot of times people don't report or don't understand the challenges that they had getting there. And I think a lot of times it would be good for, maybe that's another podcast or something, but I just think that this, getting back up after you've been knocked down, this failing forward, I don't know of any one of the people that I know that we'd consider are the community leaders haven't had like tremendous challenges that really they learned a lot from, made them better, made them more effective. And so, I've, one of my passions is airplanes. I've been a pilot for 30 years. And so,
nice.
This is kind of a combination of real estate and airplanes. It was like, well, I always like partners, right?
Yeah.
So I would have partners in a plane. And then when that plane, people had trouble scheduling, we'd just buy another plane.
Sure.
So we converted that hobby to a company called OMR. And so that means 1 mile of runway, OMR.
Cool.
And the joke is, where does 1 mile of road get you? 1 mile. Where does 1 mile of runway get you? Anywhere in the world.
Wow.
And so this is up on 19th Avenue. We built a hangar, call it Hangar 19.
Yeah.
That's you, Hangar 19?
Yeah.
We've seen that. Okay.
Cool. But what's really gets me excited is we've added a lot of planes and a lot of partners, but it's really business focused. It's not someone that's got money and just wants to own a plane, but people that have a regional footprint. So these people are growing their businesses outside of Fargo, and that money's coming back to Fargo and helping them add employees and grow their company here in Fargo.
So Sure. How many planes do you guys house out of there?
Well, I think we've got 7.
7?
Cool.
Yeah.
So it's the business model would be, if you're a growing business and you don't necessarily want to purchase your own plane, you can own a share of a plane. You guys will house it, fuel it, fly it.
Right.
all the things that come with, keep it legal.
Yeah. But it's like the real estate. These are partners that own their share of the plane, and they kind of own their share of the business.
So when you're in the air, do you do a lot of flying now still, or are you just a passenger?
Oh, that's so much fun. And it's like, you kind of get up there, and obviously you got to really focus on your flying and the equipment and that kind of stuff. And so kind of like everything else, all your problems, everything else goes out of your brain, and you're just focused on that. So
what's your favorite plane that you have?
Well, what my favorite plane, it's called the TBM. So it's a propeller with a jet engine, but it goes, 30,000 feet and 300 miles an hour.
Oh, that's
so,
sweet.
Yeah.
Are you authorized to fly jet and prop? Just prop?
No. And it's, again, I've got a lot of sideline things that keep me from doing that. But each plane, you have to have, specific training and, and so I'm kind of like, I don't want to really have a bigger plane where I'm responsible for other people. And then usually when I fly, I bring another pilot along. And so it's kind of like an instruction and flying too. But yeah, there's,
Well, backtracking to, you had talked about your failures. So it sounded like to me that the guys that can fail the most and get up again are the ones that'll be the most successful. Is there a failure that really sticks to your mind of something that happened, or was there something that was hard on you, a specific project, or?
Let's see. I lost a U.S. Senate race.
Right.
I lost majority leader races in politics.
Was that really hard on you at the time?
Well, it was, because you put your whole heart and soul in it.
Yeah.
What was really hard is you have this whole team behind you, and their whole focus is to get you elected. And then you have so many friends and people supporting you.
Yeah, of course.
And so it's like, you kind of like, you feel bad for them. I mean, I still get people sending me pictures of, Berg for Senate bumper stickers or T-shirts or that kind of stuff. So, but I think it was also what really launched me on what we're doing now in real estate. I was like, in Congress, you have a lot of young people that are attracted to it, and they just work hard. It's crazy hours. And the kind of came back, and I'm like, if people work that hard on real estate, for 3 to 5 years, they'd be set for life. Even if they switch gears, you'd generate some long-term passive income. And so, the other part of that is I had one building that was my baby, and I took care of it and probably spent 15, 20 hours a month on that building, knew all the tenants, knew their kids, knew that stuff. And it was going really well. And then I get elected to Congress. Well, you can't do anything for 2 years. So I found a person who I said, I'd like you to buy, 10% of this. Sure. And it was like, well, I don't have any money. And I goes, well, I'll finance you 100%. And the cash flow to that person was about $800 a month. And the payment to me was about $700 a month. And I was like, it sounds kind of stupid. If you're making $800, why would you give $100 up, right?
Right.
Well, I came back in 2 years without spending hardly any time in the building, 100% leased, rents were up, building was more valuable. And then it kind of changed my thinking. And it's like, yeah, I'm much better off owning 80% or 70% or a smaller number with someone that's got passion and really wants to grow their net worth and grow their equity.
Sure.
And so was kind of how we're set up now, is everyone's aligned, everyone, is involved in the success of the project. Not, again, in real estate, there's a lot of deals out there that, you put it together and you make money when you put the deal together. But we've kind of set it up that we don't make money short term, we make money long term. And so, you have to make sure cash flows, have to make sure that, it's going to be, high occupancy, make sure you built the right building in the right place.
Sure.
So I would say the story on that is really alignment.
Yeah.
And so if you're starting a business or in a business, kind of get it aligned so everyone succeeds together.
Sure.
Or if you have a challenge, you face that challenge together.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And Joseph and I talk about this a lot because we're both in the residential field, and we both do okay for ourselves, and we have our own projects. I have a few rentals, he has rentals and all these things, but we're getting to the point where we're like, well, how do we grow,
Right.
And should we partner up on an apartment building, or should we pool together 10 guys and build something? And it's like, that's the point where we're at in our careers. How do we scale? How do we get bigger? And it's an ever evolving thing.
Well, maybe you have to talk about that after the podcast.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Unless you want everyone to know.
That's right. That's right. But that's what we're struggling with. It's hard because, at our age, you don't always have the most equity in the world. But if we can bring people together, like-minded guys who are passionate about it, and do a bigger scale project, well, it's a bigger win for us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, I've got a lot on that, but probably the other thing that was most profound for me was I always joke, the most I ever learned was after I knew it all. And when I was 25, I knew it all, right? No one could outwork me. I studied everything. I kind of knew it all. And probably about 10, 15 years later, I realized, you know what? There's someone smarter than me in absolutely everything. And if there's something that you would like to do or something you would want, don't ask the next 10 people you see, because everyone wants to give you an answer, right?
Sure.
But they may not know what they're talking about. They're still going to give you an answer. And so figure out what it is you want to do or be or become, and someone else is already there. And if it takes you 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 hours, or 2 months, get a half hour with that person. And they can help you and they can answer your questions with all this experience and background. And more senior people that have already achieved that, it charges them up to mentor someone. I mean, you get to that point where you want to help other people. So that's what I would say, no matter what it is you want to do. And I mean, I think that's part of our culture at work that's worked well is, you always have problems, but find out someone that solved those problems and do whatever it takes to meet with them.
Awesome.
Or ask them that question.
That's awesome. Do you think all the companies and everything that you've built now, does that seem like that's going to be a legacy for you? Or is there such thing as an exit strategy when you get to be your size?
Well, we're certainly not done yet. There's more opportunities. There's long ways to go. But I mean, I think, I guess that's a good question. In fact, I think, and I'm copying this from what I heard, but I think one of the keys when you invest in things is protect your equity. So, it's a challenge in real estate because there's a lot of debt along with little equity, but really try and protect your equity. So that means, and then think about what's my off ramp. So you can think about, driving down interstate and here's where you want to go, right? But if it's not working out, how do I get off this interstate? How do I sell the property? How do I do that and preserve my equity? And I think that's something in any business or any investing you got to kind of think about. Cool. And, I mean, a challenge. One of the challenges in real estate, I'd say, is kind of like some of the things where people are personally guaranteeing the debt. I mean, there's projects that someone may put in $100,000. But didn't read the document, and the document said you're liable for 3 times your investment on guaranteeing the debt. Well, all of a sudden that equity was $100,000, right?
Yeah.
But not only did you lose that, you lost another $300,000. So it's preserve the equity.
Yeah. I feel like some mentors that I've talked to who have built a level of wealth through real estate or investing, they always talk about just risk taking. Like the guys that aren't willing to take risks, they can be very smart, they can be very passionate at what they do, but they'll never reach the next level. Do you feel like you had a really tough time with risk taking in your career, or were you always like, let's go, let's try it, let's see what happens?
Well, that's a great question. I think risk is different in anyone's mind.
Sure.
For me with apartments, it was like, that's what I did all day long.
Yeah.
So when I did something, it was risky, but it was really on me to kind of do and take care of it and figure it out. And obviously I learned from each thing that I had done versus, maybe, investing in some new company that someone else is running that you know nothing about, which is another one of my theories now is don't invest in anything you don't know anything about.
Sure.
It's kind of like if you invest in a business that you don't really know much about, you have to be prepared to A, lose your money, or B, take the time to go in and help turn that company or that idea around.
Okay.
Because there's going to be a challenge. And so I tend to just look at investments or even other companies as what's the real estate component. And, how can so if someone looked at me in my portfolio, I'd be really, really not very, focused in real estate, not really diversified, but I mean, that's what I know. Right. So, do what you know, invest in what you know, and really invest in the long term.
Yeah. I like that. Are there any, like projects that you're doing maybe right now that aren't super insider, but anything that's public info that you're just super stoked on? Anything that's really neat at this current time?
Yeah. I mean, we've got a project that in Minneapolis that we're doing 127 apartment units kind of, which is really tough to make it work right now. But, that's exciting to see that. And then we're doing an office building in Minneapolis as well. That's, cool. I think, going to be done this next year. We're on the kind of the private side. I was involved in building a hotel in Medora. Medora is kind of a passion of mine. Yeah. And so we kind of got aligned with a few other partners and we built it together. Basically, I just helped line them up. And then, one of the main partners was Theraldson's. And Gary's built like hundreds and hundreds of hotels. So his team kind of took it around to try and get it done before the presidential library, which is opening in July. So they've done a tremendous job. So those are kind of, I guess, some interesting real estate. And then look at some projects in Sioux Falls and look at some projects in Billings.
How do you approach different markets that obviously you're very familiar with Fargo and North Dakota, but when you're getting into different markets and Minneapolis, how do you approach that? Do you have a lot of contacts within those cities that you meet with frequently to gain knowledge on those markets?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first step in any of these markets is really, like I say, studying the market. Yeah. And there's probably 20 different things we look at in a market. Okay. We look at it over time, but finding a market where there's an opportunity, where you can provide an apartment where no one else is doing that right now, or this is kind of a niche that's being missed. Or, you guys know location, right? And so I think that's really what we look in these markets is, and then we look at them a little different. A lot of people are building buildings and then flipping them, and nothing wrong with that, but they're really not looking at the long term. And so that's what we're looking at these markets long term. Are we in the right spot, right market long term?
I laughed, Ben. I don't think I ever told you this story, but there was a guy that's higher up at Enclave and asked a similar question of going to new markets, new locations. And he said, we just follow Shields around.
Oh, really?
Wherever Shields has already done the back end research. So if they put a building up there, it's probably going to work.
It's probably going to work.
Well, they've been remarkable. Shields has.
Oh my goodness.
Locations. Yeah.
That's crazy. Do you know the Shields at all? Are you meetings with them or close with Steve?
Yeah. We've had some fun hunting and fishing trips over the years.
Cool. Yeah.
I feel like your phone's got to be just stacked with just all the big players going on.
There's, those are, great guy, humble guy, but also someone that's really always stayed on the details of the business and really focused on those core things. You might look at that and say, opening us, a Shields is high risk in some new market, but they've done all their research ahead of time, and they hit the ground running when they open, and their customer service is
it's phenomenal.
Yeah. Outstanding. This has been awesome, Rick. We really appreciate your time coming. We like to kind of end the podcast on kind of a fun question or a fun little deal here. So we have one for you. It's not too crazy here. We want to know, after a long week, what does Rick Berg do on a Friday night? Where does he go and what does he do?
That's a great question. I like to get together with friends, go out for dinner, nice. Or depending on the length of the week, go home and just rest and make it a nice evening. Yeah.
I like it. You don't have a hotspot place in town, nothing too crazy.
Yeah. It's like, there's a lot of places that we enjoy going here in Fargo, and it's kind of like, that's a great question I'm thinking about today. Today, I am going to finish after the honors meeting later, and then I don't know what I'm going to do tonight. I have no idea.
Well, maybe you're coming out with us.
Yeah, I'm open. I'm open for offers and suggestions. I'm sure that'd make a fun night hanging out with you guys. So,
appreciate it. Rick.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming by. This has been fantastic. So hopefully we'll have you again on at some point here.
Sure. I'd enjoy that.
We're working on our reoccurring guest list. So we're going to add you to it.
Okay. Awesome.